What's going on, guys? My name is Thomas, and I'm here in Colorado at the two-day Guardian match. So I've always wanted to kind of do a breakdown of some of my gear and the things that I bring to a match, but I never really found the right time. But as I was taking my stuff out, getting ready for tomorrow and organizing everything, I figured that I would make a little makeshift work space and do a little bit of a breakdown here around my hotel room. So I'm going to do a much more in-depth review on the 1615 Air Pelican that I have, a breakdown of each individual pocket, why I use it, why I have it, and then the other Pelican that I have here behind me that I travel with my rifle. But this is just going to be kind of like a 30,000 foot view of just the basics, essential stuff that I bring with me to every match, regardless if I'm driving or flying. Because obviously if you drive, you can bring much more gear with you, and such as potentially a backup rifle, tripods, more ammo, things like that, versus where you fly, you're kind of limited to the two cases or the two Pelicans or whichever you bring with you that are limited to 50 pounds. So it kind of makes you trim down and lower what you bring to a match, which is also not a bad thing either. So let's dive right in. First thing where I think we should start is rifle mag and ammo. So these are accurate mags. This is currently 6 Creedmoor 108 ELDMs. This is factory. I do have a charge weight loaded up at home for this competition rifle that I have behind me. And if you have not, go check out this rifle. There should be one video behind this or two videos behind. If you want to see what this rifle is, it's full breakdown. I go from all the way from the tip all the way to the butt. The entire thing. I didn't really have much time to load up some ammo because I've just been quite busy with Ohio Range Day and a couple other things. So I decided just to bring some factory ammo with me and shoot factory ammo, and Hornady 108 ELDM factory ammo is solid. So I also have an MDT mag that I have. So I always bring two, regardless if I'm flying or driving. And I just decided to bring an extra 5-round mag because last match that I had a little bit of an issue with one of my mags, and luckily I had an extra 10-round mag, so I was able to swap it out. But to save a little bit of weight, I brought a 5-round mag, and I think I'm always going to start keeping that on my belt, just in case something happens with the quiver on the side and the extra 5 rounds. At least I'll be able to make up 7 points potentially out of 10 instead of washing a stage completely if it does come down to that. So that's rifle, mag, and ammo. I think the next thing we should start at is the Kestrel. So the Kestrel is super important, yes, for wind, but more importantly for your temperature, your elevation, and your pressure. So we can get our wind from how we feel it, what we receive with our eyes, obviously, and then ultimately we have to shoot, make a wind call, and watch the bullet and see what it does. Without temperature, pressure, and your elevation, you're gonna have an inaccurate firing solution. The data that you put into your actual data card or whatever app you use, GeoBallistics, Hornady, Applied Ballistics, it's going to spit out a firing solution after you put in those parameters. So in certain places, such as in New York or somewhere where it's populated and you have the ability to get an accurate weather from where you are, it makes your life easy. You can get it off your phone. But if you're somewhere like here in the middle of Colorado, in the middle of the mountains, you might not have cell phone service. You might not have those things. So to have a handheld pretty much meteorological tool, it's really great to have because you can input data and still allow you to have an accurate firing solution. So I don't have any fancy Kestrel. This is just a very basic model. It gives me temperature, dew point, all that good stuff, but does not have applied ballistics or any sort of firing solution data in here. I get that from other sources. That's just a personal preference of mine, but that's what I use. Then the next thing we should talk about is hard dope. So I always have an arm card or data board, whatever you want to call it. I don't actually know this one, where I got this from. I'm pretty sure I got it off Amazon for pretty cheap. And it does everything I need to. I use wet erase markers if I need to write down a stage for whatever I'm doing. And then I keep individual cards in here for my data. So right now, this is the 6.5 Creedmoor, my 147 ELDs that I shot last month at a match. And then tonight, before I get ready for bed, I'll create a new data card and put it in for tomorrow. So I always have hard data card just because electronics do go down and things can happen. So having hard data has its limits, of course, but it also has its benefits, right? So whatever you use or whatever you think you might need, just kind of based solely upon what you're doing for that specific match. Next thing that I've been really playing around with is the Garmin Fortrex 901. So this thing is fantastic. I love this thing. I've been using it for probably about 8 months. I've used it at about 4 or 5 matches, and I can tell you that I'm probably never going to get rid of this thing. Yes, hard data is fantastic, but this just gives you much more modularity in what you can do, right? For instance, for a hard data card, you have to either update your environmentals and then rewrite a new card. This has stuff built in where it'll, applied ballistics specifically, that'll just reload and update your firing solution for whatever your wind is. It also gives you 2 different wind holds instead of having to write it on there. It's a much more modular and streamlined piece of equipment to have. Now, personally, I carry both. I have the written and I also have the electronic. So I can do both, cross-reference it between my data card, the applied ballistics, and also the Hornady that I have on my phone, and get an accurate solution if it is a further target. The other thing that's really nice is that you can bounce back and forth between profiles. So last weekend I was in Ohio for Ohio Range Day, and I was shooting my 6-ARC, that's a gas gun. Well, I was using this, and now this week I'm in Colorado shooting my 6 Creedmoor, and it was all just a few changes of the buttons instead of having to rewrite a whole new card. The other thing that I didn't realize until last weekend that was actually very helpful was rain, right? So when I was at Ohio Range Day, it was pouring all day, 100% rain. You could use data cards in there, right? But they have the limitations again. Paper. If I'm writing down a stage, and I'm using a wet erase marker, so it's going to get erased, essentially, right? So, versus the 901, where it's waterproof, I can put it out in the rain, and I had no issue with it. Luckily, where we were shooting at Ohio Range Day, it was only out to 700 yards, and the targets were pretty small in 100-yard increments, so it's pretty easy to memorize a stage if you're running one. But we really weren't. We were just doing some scope carbine stuff, which was really cool and interesting and something different. But that's just another example of just having different sources of data and different equipment and things to use when you shoot a match. So this is fantastic. Next up, in order to spot, you have to have something to spot with. So personally, I have the Swarovski NL Pures, the 12 to 42, and let me tell you, this is the clearest binos I have, glass I've ever looked through, to be quite honest with you. These are fantastic. So if you get the opportunity to look through these pieces of glass or own them, I highly suggest you get them. You can watch trace on a lot of bullets. You can see what the wind is doing. You can see what the vegetation is doing. It's really a really great tool and asset. Now, obviously, I know some people like range finding binos. I never really had them, and I kind of learned to use both. Both as in binos and a rangefinder, which brings us to our next one of the Terrapin X. What I like about this is that I have astigmatism. So the Terrapin X, there's a little circle in the reticle, and my eye picks it up really well. So I don't have an issue, because I did have an issue with some other rangefinders where I couldn't pick it up, or it was really fuzzy, or I couldn't find where to exactly put the dot on the target to get an accurate range, and then I was getting inaccurate ranges. It was just making me frustrated, so I decided to just get the Terrapin X, and honestly, I haven't looked back. It's a fantastic piece of equipment. Now, going back to the 901, these pair together, right? So Bluetooth. So I can range with the Terrapin X, and it'll pop up onto my 901. Now, it'll also pop up on a single range, or I can also make a target card if I'm running a stage, whether it's NRL, whether it's PRS, whatever the case may be. Give me all of my ranges just by simply clicking 2 buttons. So that is a great piece of technology as well, because it limits your having to really think and try to find things on your arm or write things down. So that's just, again, another piece of equipment on how they talk to each other and the advancements of PRS and technology. Next up, I have how I actually mount my stuff. So this is brand new. This is the Really Right Stuff Cinema Rail. This is the 10.3 inch. And the reason I went with this is I have previously used the mub plate, and listen, don't get me wrong, the mub is fantastic. My camera is actually sitting on the mub at this moment. But what I was finding was that way I was looking through glass and then my rangefinder, I was having to constantly adjust my head up and down. It just wasn't working right, and it was too close to the actual mub plate, so I couldn't get a grip onto it. And then when I tried to adjust it with the bottom of my hand, it just was not working well. I tried to use it for like a year to really get used to it, but it was just not working. So probably about a month ago, I decided to get the Really Right Stuff Archer rail, and I've used it twice. for 2 different matches, and it's fantastic, and I love it. So I mount my binos on here, and then my Terrapin X on this swiveling ball head, this micro ball head, so I can adjust. So I spot with the binos and then adjust with the ball head. I also have a spot for my phone, and the reason I do is because I can look up on the Hornady app and get another firing solution, so I can cross-reference between my ARM card, the 901, and then the Hornady. So it gives me just the ability to run all of it. I also keep a microfiber cloth at the end just to clean off anything that I need if it gets dirty. Next up is the Coltac binder. This is a very simple piece of equipment. You honestly don't need it. I just carry it because I like to be able to keep my, if I have to write new data cards, whether it's a new dope card or a matchbook, I could just keep it in here. It just makes my life a little easier. I have some pens and stuff in here. But this is just nice to have, honestly, but it's lightweight and I can kind of carry it with me all the time. This is a must-have, the Fix-It sticks. Whether one of your screws comes loose, whether your rifle has to be taken out of a chassis, it doesn't really make a difference. Fix-It sticks are where it's at, and if you don't have some, you should definitely pick some up because they're small, they're lightweight, and they give you the modularity to pretty much take your entire rifle apart and put it back together within 20 minutes if you need to. So I always carry Fix-It sticks with me as well. So before we get onto some of the personal stuff that I carry on myself, I want to talk about the bag. So this is the Armageddon Gear pint-sized game changer. So this has the Get Light fill in it. I do really, really love this bag. I've been shooting it since I started really getting into long range, which was probably about 3 years ago. But I do find at certain times where I need a bigger bag to give me better support, especially the ones where we're shooting a little bit on a downward angle and I need some more padding underneath the back of the buttstock. So there's a few stages that I've ran recently that needed a lot more, and I don't really want to bring a pump pillow or something huge with me to a match because it's not practical, especially if I fly. So I think I'm going to get the bigger full-size game changer with the Get Light, so it gives me some more padding and I can fill in some of that negative space instead of having something small. This is great for like a prone stage. It's super lightweight, it's super small. You can pretty much throw it around and do whatever you need with it, but I think I'm going to swap it out and get the full size. I also have the Schmedium, and the Schmedium has the heavy fill in it, and that I use for positional. Both of my game changers have carabiners on them, and the reason I do is because I can clip it right to my belt. So if I'm running a stage and I need a tripod rear per se, I could have my rifle in one hand, the tripod on the other, and my bag clipped to my belt. Run up to the stage, drop the tripod, take off my bag, put the bag down on the barricade or whatever prop I'm shooting off of, and then get onto the rifle. So it just gives you the ability to take away one thing from your hands if you need to. Again, this is just me and this is what I use, so feel free to take whatever you need and what you don't. Next up is the belt that I run. So this is the T-Rex Arms Covert belt, as I guess it's called. I'm okay. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's good. It does its job. I think next year, towards the end of the year, I'm gonna swap it out for something else. And the reason I say that is because I get some hot spots with it, and more importantly, it doesn't really hold all the weight that I need. Like, it's great. It's super thick, and the inner belt is great, but it just doesn't hold up if I have a game changer on there, my Terrapin, and a fully loaded 3 mags. And plus a Kestrel, it just doesn't feel right. So I think I'm going to swap it out. I'm also going to swap out this Hill People's Gear bag for the rifles only rangefinder bag or holder, case, whatever you want to call it, just because it's a little more slim and I can be able to add a dump pouch and just a few other things. I'm going to switch up my belt this year. Just modularity, just personal preference again. Next up, I have my tripod. The tripod is the Really Right Stuff 34 with an Anvil 30 ball head. I also have the Raven wrap that's on there, and the Raven wrap just has an extra little case on the front, as you can tell, just to keep extra pens, pencils, and some of the extra data cards that I have. Lastly, I have the Stone Glacier Kiowa bag. I think it's the Kiowa. I could be wrong, but this bag is fantastic. I have been running this for probably since I started 2.5, 3 years ago. It's seen every sort of condition, been thrown around, gear taken in and out constantly, ammo going through it. I mean, it's fantastic. This bag is just, it holds up, it's good, it's thick, it's lightweight to carry with and travel. So if you don't have a bag or you're looking for one, I really suggest the Stone Glacier one. All right, so this is just a very basic 30,000 foot view of some of my gear. If you guys like the video and you like the stuff that you see, let me know in the comments below. And if you want a full breakdown of every pocket and everything that I carry in my Pelicans, let me know below. And I hope to see you guys soon.